Ayos.
Hello, everyone. So today, me and my group will be discussing bilingual and multilingualism. Sorry, bilingualism and multilingualism. Today, I'm here with my colleagues. I am Zenith Garda Islamy, less student number 047, and this is
Yohanes Kurniawan, and my last student number is 92.
And my name is Ulan and Dewi. My last student number is 14.
okay. For the first materials, we will start with Johannes. He will be explaining what is bilingualism exactly.
So, what is bilingualism? Bilingualism is ability to communicate in more than one language and can be thought of as a continuum of language skill, which proficiency in any of the language used may fluctuate over time and across social settings, conversational partner and topics. Next. So the definition of bilingual. There are two definition. The broad definition and narrow definition. Narrow definition or perfect bilingual. Individual speaks two language perfectly. Two minilinguals in one or native like control of two languages and have a high level of proficiency. And for the second broad definition or imperfect bilingual, the individual possesses a minimal competence in one of the four language skills, can function and at same level in more than one language. Varying proficiencies in comprehension or speaking skills. For the next definition of bilingual and bilingualism, according to Webster's dictionary, having or two language especially spoken with the fluency characteristic of a native speaker. A person using two languages especially habitually and with control like that of a native speaker. Bilingualism, the constant oral use of two languages. And there are types of bilingualism, and for the first one is simultaneous bilingualism. The acquisition of the languages in the same time, typically with both languages introduced prior to the age of 3. One who acquires two languages simultaneously as a first language. And for the second, sequential bilingualism. A second language introduced after age 3 at which time level of proficiency has been established in the primary language. Also referred to as successive bilingualism or second language acquisition or SLA. Sequential bilingual, one who acquires second language after first language is acquired. Age of acquisition of the second language. Early bilingual is acquired second language in infancy or early childhood. And the late bilingual acquired second language in adolescence or adulthood. Circumstances leading to bilingualism. Elite or academic is the person who choose to study a second language. Person with a formal education in the foreign language studies. Indication that the individual gives value to the language learned. And for the natural or folk, person who grew up in communities where several languages, second language acquisition may be imposed upon the individual, may result in resentment towards people or culture associated with languages. The description of the languages, the description of the relationship between first language and second language, and bilingual, an individual with native competency in two languages, two native speaker in one. And for the equilingual or bilingual has proficiency in both language. Description of the context of acquisition and of its effect on bilingual two-language system. Coordinate bilingual. Individual learns language in separate environments, maintains separation after mastery of languages. And the second compound bilingual, individual learns language in same environment and context. So it's like in their home they speak two languages, and for the coordinate bilingual, at home they acquire bahasa Indonesia, and at university they learn about a new languages. Next, the descriptive of stages in the lives of bilingual. There are two types of stages in the lives of bilinguals. Ascendant bilingual, whose functional ability in second language is growing. Recessive bilingual whose functional ability in second language is decreasing. Next, 5 stages of second language acquisition. From the first, pre-production, silent or receptive period, early production, speech emergence, intermediate fluency, until advanced fluency, or continued language development. And for the first stage, pre-production. Duration is about 0 until 6 months. Vocabulary acquired is 500 noun words. During this stage, the individual learn vocabulary, has very few oral skills, may only respond non-verbally, cannot speak second language with any real fluency or understanding. Practices pronouncing new words. Controversial, totally silent, because some time at speech. Early production. The duration 6 months until 1 year. Vocabulary that already acquired is 1,000 known words. During this stage, the individual listen with greater understanding, produce limited number of words, phrases, and simple sentences. Phrases and sentences may not be grammatically correct. And the third stage, speech emergence. Duration 1 until 3 years. Vocabulary that already acquired 3,000 noun words. During this stage, the individual gains greater comprehension, begins reading and writing in the second language, communicate through short phrases, sentences, and equations, still makes grammatical and pronunciation errors. The fourth stage, intermediate fluency. Duration 3 until 5 years. Vocabulary that already acquired 6,000 noun words. During this stage, the individual begins thinking in second language, gain higher proficiency when speaking, uses complex sentences in writing and in speech, demonstrates increased level of accuracy and correctness, and able to express thought and feelings in second language. And for the fifth stage, advanced fluency. Duration 5 until 7 years. vocabulary content area vocabulary, so it's wide enough to mastery the second language. During this stage, the individual produce second language utilizing varied grammatical structures and vocabulary. Master the second language in all of its complexities and nuances, and is comparable to native speaker of the same languages. And for the next topic will be present by Ulan and Dewi.
Okay, so the next page is the normal processes and phenomenon of second language acquisition. So this phenomenon of previously learned patterns on new learning situation. And in terms of SLA, this is caused by a new language learner transfer their first language to second language due to a lack of knowledge of the second language. And the transfer of this stage may involve the speech sounds such as the syntactic structures, grammatical features, word meanings, and pragmatic performance. And the ability to acquire a second language system can be predicted by the ease of transfer between two languages. The knowledge of first language in the acquisition of second language can have a facilitative and inhibitive effects on the learner's progress in mastering a new language. Next. Okay, so this transfer stage can be divided into two parts, which are positive versus negative transfer. So the first one is positive transfer, which is facilitation. This positive transfer occurs when two language systems structures align well with each other and provide an ease of transition. For example, the cognates. Cognates is such the word pairs within the same language or from different languages that share form and meaning. So, for example, like if we learn the first language, if we learn the second language and we have the native first language of the Indonesian, so maybe if we can translate, okay, for example, the different language between English and Spanish. If we can translate the language of the Spanish, for example, like gratitude, so it has the same word pairs in the English, which is gratitude. So this is such of the positive transfer or facilitation. And vice versa, a negative transfer or inhibition occurs when two differences between the structures of two languages led to systematic errors in the learning of the second language. Okay, next. Okay, so the second stage in the normal processes and phenomena of SLA is the silent period. So we already identified this stage as the period of the 5 steps of second language acquisition or as pre-production or the receptive period. So when children are first exposed to a second language, they will frequently focus only on listening and comprehension. And the younger are the child, they will be longer in the silent period tends to last. And older children may be silent for a few weeks or a few months, while preschoolers' children may be silent for a year or more. Next. Okay, so the next stage is code switching. This is such the changing languages over phrases or sentences, and then the substitution of words into the second language for words in the first language. And in terms of semantics, code switching is one of the most obvious types of forward Q transfer. It is used by adults and children alike, where the adults, the code switching happens to them in adding emphasis to what they are saying and generally only code switch when they know their audience will understand it. And then in children, the code switching may happen when it is the only way they know to express an idea. Okay, next. Okay, so this is the language loss. The language loss can be divided into two parts, which is the first part is the subtractive bilingualism. This stage occurs when, as an individual learns the second language, he or she may lose skills and fluency in the first language if the first language is not reinforced and maintained through the studying and practice. But it can be detrimental both cognitively and linguistically to a child's learning and to his or her family's lives. Mostly if the parents speak only the first language and not the second language. So when they are learned the second language, mostly while they are not reinforced and maintained through the studying and practice, they will obviously losing their first language because their interaction through the first language is not frequently united with their surrounding, for example, like their family, their parents. Yeah, the next one. So the next one of the part in the language loss is additive bilingualism. This occurs when an individual learns the second language while the language and culture of the first language are still maintained and reinforced. And of course, this is such the ideal process of bilingualism because for children, because they still can maintain and reinforce their language and culture with with developing their surrounding in order to maintain their culture, which is maybe can be maintained by knowing each other culture with someone else, with their friends, and yeah, to just getting to know their culture in order to not getting lost their first language while they are still learning the second language. Okay, the next one. Okay, so the next stage in this second language acquisition is the four theories of bilingual language acquisition by Jim Cummins, which are divided into four theories. The first one is Biggs and Kolb. The second one is Common Underlying Proficiency Model. The third is Thresholds Theory. And the last one is the Communicative Proficiency Model or Four-Quadrant Model. Next. Okay, so the first one is the theory by Jim Cummins, which is Basic Interpersonal Communication Skills, or BICS. So BICS here is described as the development of conversational fluency in the second language. This is such the communicative skills of listening and speaking that are needed in social situations. And the interaction here in the communicating the language occur in the authentic social context and are usually context embedded, which is the context embedded here is including many physical and visual supports to support the communicative exchange. And it is not considered to demanding the cognitive text, which is language required for BICS is not specialized, which is it happens frequently in the social or in society, which they obviously when the children can have the interaction with many physical and visual supports in their surroundings. And these skills develop quickly by the year from 1 to 3 years. Okay, the next one. The next one is CALP, or Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency. CALP explains the use of the second language in the contextualized academic situations. So this might happen in the academic institution, which is school, and yeah, the students' academic learning in various subject areas, and this is such an essential for students to succeed in school, which is including in the terms of speaking, writing, listening, and reading. As the student gets older, the content of academic tasks is reduced and the language is more cognitively demanding. And this academic proficiency takes much longer time to develop, which is from 5 to 8 years or more than the social communication proficiency. because the process of this language acquisition is more complex rather than the in the big process, and it means that this process is would be demanding to the cognitive skill that can in the academic proficiency in the academic language proficiency which they can learn from their teacher, and it tends the longer time for them to develop their language in this context. Okay, so the next one will be presented by my friend Zenith Garda.
Okay, I will be continuing the presentation where Ulan left off, which is the common underlying proficiency model. In Jim Cummins' hypothesis, he proposed that, In Jim Cummins' hypothesis, he proposed that every language has surface features that are unique to that language. However, underlying those features are proficiencies that are common across languages. Common underlying proficiency model is the basis for linguistics. That interdependence hypothesis is the hypothesis Jim Cummins proposed, that every language has a surface feature that again, like I just explained, every language has a unique feature that is unique to that language itself, but it has different features that are different than the other. That are the same. The cognitive functions is the same, which for the examples of these cognitive skills are similar, or that is similar, is the literacy, content learning, abstract thinking, and problem solving. Okay. Jim Cummins' threshold theory believed that there are certain threshold that individual must reach to reap the benefits from the language that they speak. If a person have a high level of proficiency in both languages, it can result in cognitive advantages such as the they can have cognitive advantages in terms of linguistics and cognitive flexibility. Low-level proficiency, on the other hand, on both languages can result in cognitive deficit. For quadrant model, this model focuses on the attention at the level of linguistic and contextual challenges in the classroom setting. This is most commonly used in the classroom setting to help children learn more, to help children learn. Okay, there are in the four quadrant model, there are four types, I guess, the four types of things. The four types of the quadrant models are the context embedded demanding test, with the context embedded undemanding test, context reduced demanding test, and context-reduced undemanding tasks. Example of context-embedded demanding tasks are the science experiments, hands-on tasks, math tasks. The example of cognitive embedded undemanding cognitive embedded undemanding tasks. Sorry, this one is supposed to be. Oh no, no. So the context embedded undemanding tasks. The example of that is the face-to-face conversation, or the task would be drama. Another example of context-reduced demanding tasks is writing information report or reading nonfiction. Lastly, the context-reduced undemanding tasks is the telephone conversation, written instruction for basic tasks. Okay, so next is the multilingual and multilingualism. Multilingual can be defined as a person who speaks more than two languages fluently. Multilingualism multiling, multilingualism can be defined as a, a person who's let me repeat that. Multilingualism can be defined as a person who speaks more than two languages fluently, while multilingualism can be defined as product of the environment of early childhood exposure and an informal language acquisition as opposed to formal language training. Then we continue to monolingual and bilingual and trilingualism. Monolingualism is, again, as the name stated, is a person who knows one language, while bilingualism is a person using or able to use two languages, especially with equal fluency, while trilingualism is a person able to speak three languages fluently. Examples of monolingualism is that monolingualism is often found in a country like America, United Kingdom, or Australia, where the people speak English, and they do not seem to need to learn other language because English is the international language. While bilingualism is noticeable in the Hispanic country in the US, in the Hispanic community in the US, French in Algeria, and people who moved away from their country into the okay, so Hispanic community in the US is mostly comprised of people from the South America coming up to the USA to work. We in news we often heard them as immigrants, while in French situation in Algeria or other African nation that has been colonized by the French in the colony has been colonized by French, they have mostly speak French in their government. This can also be seen in Malaysia, where English is also used in similar fashion there. And lastly, the example of people who moved away from their country. This is quite similar to the Hispanic community in the USA. There are people who came to English in the country that speaks English to work or for education purpose. They are forced or they are required to learn and speak English while they also have their mother tongue. Okay, trilingualism. Trilingualism is, as the name stated, is a people or person who is able to speak three languages. Trilingualism is prominent in the country like Hong Kong, Philippines, and Norway. This happened because this country or others is the country that have more than one foreign influence. For example, the Philippines. The Philippines have three languages, which are Tagalog, Spanish, and English. The Tagalog is their native language, while Spanish and English they acquire from their history of colonization. There are some contributing factors to multilingual society. One of the example that we already glossed over is the foreign influence. If the country is influenced by other country or culture, they will speak multiple languages, which, as example that I just gave you, is the Philippines. While another factors that contributes to multilingual society when the country shares border with a different country that speaks a bit similar or a different language. Example of this is I guess we can say our country. Example of this is Indonesian. Indonesia people borders with the Malaysia, while we don't necessarily speak Malay, we can where we doesn't necessarily speak Malay fluently, we can communicate or understand each other. If we were to speak or force in a situation where we have to speak Malay, we will be able to understand and communicate with each other. Okay. Okay, that's all from us. Thank you for your attention. If we have fault, if there is something we miss or mistakes we made along the way, we are very, very sorry. So yeah, that's all from us. Thank you for your time.